Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Ken Duran. I'm the city manager for the City of San Dimas. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's forum, and thank you for taking the time out of your evening to be here this evening. This is an issue that has been in the forefront for the community for the last several months, actually longer than that. The city has been looking at trying to come up with a Coyote Management Plan that would help the city staff and the community to address the emergence of coyotes in our community, and not just in San Dimas, but throughout San Gabriel Valley, throughout the state. And so the city staff had prepared a plan that we presented to the city council back in August, and there were some questions that were raised at that city council meeting. And so the city staff over the last 6 weeks has actually been doing some additional research and come up with some additional information. But we realized that it was such a significant issue within the community that it might be appropriate to have a separate community forum like tonight to at least present to you what we're anticipating as a plan that the city may adopt, and provide you with information about this issue. So we held this forum this evening. We appreciate your attendance. Our local community access channel, Channel 3, KWST, is actually going to be taping this, so we'll actually have it available on our website for those who could not be in attendance this evening, so they can actually look at the information that we're presenting tonight. So what I'd like to do at this point is turn this over to our Assistant City Manager, Brad McKinney, who's kind of in the forefront of putting together this plan and program. We have some experts here with us this evening that might be able to answer some of your questions. So it's really going to be an interactive process this evening to get information from us, but also to hear from you as far as your issues and concerns. So at this point, I'd like to turn over to Brad, and he'll start off our presentation.
All right, thank you everybody again for coming out tonight. Before I get started, I want to introduce a couple of other people. We have our Mayor Pro Tem, Ryan Viena, in the back, Councilman Bedar in the back as well, Councilman Bertone over here. We also have our Captain, Andy Berg, in the audience. And like Ken mentioned, we have a couple of professionals. We have Jim Hartman from the LA County Wildlife Division, and Kurt Bertone from the Inland Valley Humane Society with us as well. And they'll be available later on if there are any questions. As part of the plan, it does interact with the county. Tonight's agenda includes a brief history, background, elements of the proposed plan, and question and comments. We want to hear from you, what your thoughts are and your concerns. First off, the city is not alone with this coyote challenges. Cities throughout the San Gabriel Valley have been experiencing an increase in coyotes and human-pet encounters over the past few years, which many cities have implemented similar plans to this. Ours does, they all vary, and ours drastically varies in the tiers and the response plan, which I'll get to later. However, it's important to note, to remember that no plan is going to eliminate the coyote challenges. However, the intent of the plan is to provide guidance in dealing with coyotes within the city. The plan implements methods that are supported by professionals, which I'll talk to later, and has been utilized in municipalities throughout Southern California. The recommended actions in the management plan are designed to increase knowledge and understanding of how coyotes behave and make clear how such behavior can be managed to reduce coyote-human conflicts or interactions. The plan is guided by the following principles. Human safety is a priority in managing coyote-human interactions. Coyotes do serve a role in the ecosystem by helping control rodent populations. Preventative maintenance are critical to minimizing potential interactions with coyotes. Solutions for coyote conflicts must address both problematic coyote behaviors and the human behaviors that invite them into your homes and near humans. A program is also designed around a program that involves residents and how they can coexist with coyotes, because they're gonna be here. They aren't going away. While developing the plan, staff did find contradictory support from professionals regarding hazing and proactive trapping solutions, which we did bring, like Ken had mentioned, we brought the plan before council before, and there were some questions on hazing strategies. Do they work, do they not work, and proactive trapping methods. An example of a coyote abatement plan includes traps being placed in strategic locations throughout the city according to activity and public consideration. And these traps would be placed in accordance to all the California state regulations, would be checked a minimum once a day, and are approved by the California Fish and Wildlife. In a coyote abatement plan that we looked into, a trap would be left at a location for 10 days with no guarantee of catching a coyote, a problematic coyote. However, it's important to note that to potentially catch a problematic coyote, there needs to be attracted in that trap, so it is going to attract other coyotes to that location. The cost of these services is approximately $3,000 per occurrence. So it's important to note that for a 10-day period, you might catch a coyote, the problematic coyote, you might not. It is a $3,000 cost, something to consider. It is also important to note that it is illegal to relocate a coyote. If a coyote is captured, it is euthanized and killed. A lot of people think, why don't we just capture them? We can do this, that's illegal, we can't do that. So the proposed plan, many experts support the education and hazing strategies and found no scientific evidence that supports proactive trapping to decrease the overall coyote population interaction with human pets. These professionals include wildlife, environmental science, research science, and conservation specialists at the University Department of Fish and Wildlife, the University of California Human Wildlife Interaction Advisor, and the Humane Society. In a conversation with research scientists at the California Fish and Wildlife, in terms of science to support lethal population control versus hazing, they indicated that unfortunately there has not been a lot of studies one way or the other. Despite the coyotes living in close proximity with humans, they are an understudied species. I learned today from our LA County specialist that the county is doing research on hazing methods, and if they are working on urbanized coyotes. So hopefully in the future we'll have that to rely on, but right now it is an understudied species. According to research scientists, based on the best available science, right now the best way to control coyotes is removing available food sources. They indicate that some cities may decide lethal control is proactive trapping is a tool they want to use to remove, in addition to removing food sources. However, one issue with lethal control is it will not, even if you remove a problematic coyote or multiple coyotes, it's not going to eradicate the situation. They're not going, they've been here for years, they're going to continue to be present throughout Southern California. On the other side, experts such as Dr. Robert Tim of the Division of Agriculture and Natural Resources in the University of California and Rex Baker of Cal Poly Pomona support the removal of bold aggressive coyotes when necessary. They indicate that trapping in problem areas with consistent issues can reduce encounters. I was actually able to talk to Dr. Tim, contact him to get insight into possible alternatives for our plan. And Dr. Tim indicated that his only concern with the plan that we previously proposed to council was the reliance heavily on hazing as a primary strategy for reducing coyote interaction due to limited scientific evidence that habituated coyotes to people. Their actions cannot be reversed if they've been born and raised in the community. It's hard. Hazing works on coyotes that are new to a urban environment that aren't as comfortable. So given both of the professional advice from both sides of proactive trapping and hazing strategies. Today's proposed plan does not utilize hazing to habituate coyotes. These coyotes are born and raised in our community and near homes. So we're not using it as a primary strategy to changing the behavior. Rather, we're using hazing strategies as an enforcement or a tool to protect yourself. Hazing strategies are using the whistles, loud noise, scaring off coyotes. Those are all hazing strategies that are used for newly urbanized coyotes. However, we're going to use those, or propose to use those as safety tools for you if you were to encounter a coyote, because they can be used for the same purpose. The proposed plan also provides action of trapping problem and aggressive coyotes at multiple tiers in the response plan at the recommendation of a professional biologist who will go out there and evaluate the situation. And I'll go over those later on when I identify the different tiers in the response plan. The proposed coyote management plan consists of education, enforcement, and a safety response plan. Education, coyote awareness education is critical for residents to make informed decisions regarding the safety of their family, pets, and property. The city will develop a coyote awareness public information campaign where residents are continually informed of ways to decrease attractants, protect themselves, and create reasonable expectations of normal coyote behavior. This public information can include basic coyote information, such as their social structure. Most coyotes live in a group of one breeding pair with 3 to 4 pups, and they will work together to defend the territory. However, they don't really hunt in packs. To normal, healthy, and abnormal, unhealthy coyote behavior. It's important to note that coyotes are naturally active during dawn and dusk. They're nocturnal, but sick coyotes can be laying out in midday, and it's important to note a sick coyote can be very dangerous because they're not acting in a normal behavior. The information will also include seasonal changes to the coyotes, birthing seasons. In April and May, you might see a lot more coyotes present because coyotes are active looking for food. And pup dispersal season, which is November through January, the pups are grown and are leaving the family group and looking for new areas. So those are the main months that you'll see more activity in coyotes in the community. The public information will also include appropriate responses when encountering coyotes and ways to protect yourself. Noisemakers, the hazing mechanisms that we talked about, that I mentioned, whistles, air horns, projectile sticks, anything that can scare that coyote off. The information will also include coyote attractants, methods to reduce and eliminate coyotes and those attractants. This is leaving pet food out, water, fruit on the ground, unkept yards where they can have dens, not keeping small animals on leashes or leaving them out at hours when coyotes are present. Those are all attractants that can help, if eliminated, can help reduce the presence of coyotes or the interactions with humans. The second kind of the phase of it is enforcement. The act of feeding wildlife can attract coyotes to their prey in an area, leading to increased likelihood of coyote-human interaction. California law prohibits feeding wildlife, and the city will strictly enforce the state statutes pertaining to this activity. Part of that is a lot of individuals feed feral cats. That also will attract coyotes to the area. Leaving food out, not even feeding those feral cats, the coyotes are eating that food and the feral cats that are out there. It's all part of their food that they're looking for out there. So enforcing wildlife feeding is important. In the kind of the third arm is the safety response plan. This is kind of the actions that we've taken during those encounters. A tiered safety response plan provides a mechanism for identifying, classifying different levels of human-coyote interaction. The safety response plan serves as a guide for residents and cities to respond to reports of coyote interactions and different magnitudes. Up there right now, you have a response level 1, a coyote heard or seen moving in a public area. Kind of the response, proposed response would be cited, reported, and reviewed, and if appropriate, a response will be provided to email or phone, and the city would direct residents to available resources on normal coyote behavior. Coyotes are present, they aren't going anywhere, so if you see one in the public area, yeah, you can report it, but that is a normal coyote behavior. Coyotes seen resting in the public area is still a response level 1 with the same response strategy. Coyotes seen resting in a public area with humans present, that kind of escalates it to a response level 2. The city provides resources for the resident to be educated on hazing and protection techniques and what to do tips. Additionally, the city would work with the community in the area to eliminate any attractants in that area. The coyotes there to find food, so if we can eliminate any of those attractants, there's no need for them to be there. So that education is important at that level. Another response level 2 would be a coyote behavior of a coyote entering a yard to a home with or without pets present. The city would provide information in the household to educate the coyote, or educate on coyote attractants, yard audit implementation. That's eliminating low-hanging fruits, not leaving your dog bowl out, all sorts of. There's a whole checklist that is included on those techniques. Protection techniques and/or pet safety of leaving your pet out, how long the leash should be, those type of things. The next tier response will be a level 3, which is a coyote entering a yard and injuring or killing an unattended pet. In this instance, the city would gather information on the specific animal involved, report on the circumstances, and provide information in the household to be educated on coyote attractants, yard and neighborhood audits, and pet safety information. In this one, we would also call in a biology specialist or the county specialist that would look at the situation, see if there's any attractants there, why the coyote's there, and if there was a recommendation or this was a problematic coyote, we could recommend the removal, euthanasia, if there's evidence that those attractants cannot be removed. So this is a lot more aggressive than most of the coyote plans out there, because even unattended pet is part of the food chain if the pet is unattended at night. But given the circumstances, the city would have specialists go out and survey the situation and kind of figure out why that happened, and if it is a problematic coyote, would take a more aggressive approach. The next level, coyote biting or injuring an attended or pet on a leash, pet that's on a leash or in nearby vicinity. The city would gather information on the specific animal involved, report on circumstances, provide information for the household to be educated on coyote attractants, yard and neighborhood audits, and pet safety information. Again, if a biology specialist said there is no attractants, this is a problematic coyote, removal euthanasia can be considered. The next coyote behavior would be a coyote or following or approaching a person and with a pet. The city would provide information for the resident to be educated on hazing techniques, protection techniques, what to do, tips, yard neighborhood audits, and pet safety information. Additionally, the city would work with the resident to eliminate any attractants in the yard or surrounding properties in the area, and if recommended, removal of euthanasia can be considered. Escalating to the next tier, if a coyote is approaching a person without a pet, stalking, this is where the city would provide information to the resident to be educated, similar as the other tiers, but additionally, that is a problematic coyote. If the coyote is following a human that doesn't have a pet, is stalking, that's an aggressive coyote. We would have our biologist, county specialist go out there, take a look, and if there's recommended to take a more proactive approach, then we would move forward with that. And fifth, the most severe is a coyote bite or injured human. This is where the city informs the California Fish and Wildlife, and there's definitely a recommendation and removal and euthanizing that coyote. So as you can see in the tiered response plan, all encounters within the level of 3, 4, and 5 can result in a recommendation, an action of removal, and euthanizing, but with the recommendation. These include, as I just mentioned, coyote entering a yard, injuring or killing an unattended pet, coyote biting or injuring an attended or pet on a leash, coyote following or approaching a person and pet, stalking with a pet, a coyote following or approaching a person without a pet, stalking, and a coyote biting or injuring. The kind of the last part of the Coyote Management Plan would be reporting. The plan encourages residents to report coyote sightings on the University of California Coyote Catcher. This allows us to identify problem areas. We can search down into San Dimas specifically if those coyote sightings incidents are tracked. We can see if they're in a certain region, and we can analyze that and be more proactive in a certain area. So the reporting aspect of it is just for the regional purposes. This is a regional system, but you can narrow it down specifically to San Dimas, which is important when finding out where there's a major concern. And that really concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer questions. I do have the LA County Wildlife Specialist here at the Humane Society. I have the sheriff here. If there's any questions on what you can do on your private property, can you be more aggressive? So I open it up to questions. All right.
I've read studies where, if you have a proactive, I know you can't get rid of the coyotes. And I know we know that they're like rats and pigeons, and they're here to say, but you can keep pressure on them by trapping them. And they get the message that kind of this is a dangerous area, and they kind of back off for a while. I know they come back after a while. That means you have to have a recurring program. Why can't we have a recurring program like that as occasional trapping throughout San Dimas, just to kind of keep them at bay and keep the pressure on them?
Well, based on the studies, and I've looked at both, be more proactive and against the proactive trapping. If there was a problematic coyote, then yes, this plan would support going to there. There isn't really support out there just to do a widespread trapping because you're not going to reduce the population.
Well, we're not looking at this problem. We're looking at setting an example for the coyotes. I mean, the coyotes are pretty smart. They know when it's dangerous. I mean, I'm not talking about a reactive program. You offered a reactive program, which is about the best we can expect. I'm talking about a proactive program. Keep the pressure on the coyotes.
Based on and would you, Jim, you might be able to answer some of these questions.
Well, so here's the thing. It's not biologically sustainable to just go out there and just kill something for no apparent reason. I mean, these things do perform a necessary reduction for us. They are a keystone predator out there. They do most of what they eat are rabbits and squirrels. They don't do much for commensal rodents, but they do have a purpose for that. The thing is, if they're not doing anything that causes you any particular issue, if they're doing what they're supposed to do in the environment, there's no reason to control them. It's only those occasional animals that become over-habituated that create a situation where it's a domino effect toward a potential human interaction. That's where we need to step in and we need to do something. But to just wholesalely kill coyotes just for the heck of it, it doesn't really make any biological sense.
It's not for the heck of it, it's to keep the pressure on them.
Well, here's the thing though. What pressure are you trying? What biologic pressure are you trying to
We're
put
trying
on?
to make this so they'll know you can stay in that 10 years if you like, but there's danger. You got to.
Well, and although I agree, there's not a lot of research on hazing. That's part of what hazing does for them.
Hazing doesn't do that. Just hazing. The coyotes don't care about hazing. When ones live around here.
Well,
Most of them are. I've got an article from UC that talks about the hazing not as effective on coyotes.
Well, so there isn't a lot of research on that, and most of it's anecdotal. That's one reason why we are doing the hazing study we are now. We trapped our first coyote out of 19 or 20 that we're going to get. We're already getting some data already. The first one was over in Hacienda Heights. It's going to be over 3 years. We're going to do additional stuff. And one of the things we're going to do is, since these are all the GPS collared coyotes, We'll know where they are. We're going to send citizens out to actually haze these things and see what the reaction is, how long it works, that sort of thing. But the bigger point is that just a week ago, I was at Benelli Park. I was putting on a training for my inspectors. Quote, a woman had a small dog on a leash. Coyote was doing what he normally does. He's looking for trash in our trash cans at the park. I hazed the coyote. He did what he was supposed to do. He stopped at about 40 yards, realized I was still coming on. I was making good contact, yelling at him, no profanities, and he took off for the hills and he left.
But you're not there.
Well, yes, but the thing is that this is nothing that you yourselves can't do. Coyotes understand that we're the apex predator here. That, lions, tigers, and bears, you make direct eye contact with them or aggressive, they will eat you. You don't want to do that. Coyotes understand the fact that we are at a higher level than they are, and we're not food for them. Now, we provide food for them, and they've become habituated to that fact, and that's one of the problems that we have, is that when they see people, they associate it with food. So what might seem to be aggressive behavior is the fact that someone with our odor has provided them food at some point in time. And that's part of that problem. Yes,
And it
sir?
sounds to me like you're only going to deal with like the ones that are giving the problem. The other ones, they're okay, they're just doing what they're supposed to do, so we don't do nothing about them. They're going to be wonderful and they're not going to do anything wrong. Just the one that's bad is going to do something. I don't get that.
Bold, urban, aggressive coyotes are the only thing that we're looking to in this plan.
So if
that you're looking
they're
to.
not gold, they're fine. That's it.
As long as they're not creating a problem where they're having an issue where they're eating folks' and are.
Does that make sense to you?
Okay, how are we going to identify the ones who are good and the ones who are bad? I get a couple problems with this whole idea. First of all, coyotes don't announce themselves before they attack you.
Exactly.
You don't have a chance to haze them. You're already running down the street with your dog in your mouth.
Today I was walking home at
You act like you're only
3:45 in the
gonna shoot the ones that are bad.
afternoon.
You're
He's right on my street.
I don't get that. How do you know what the hell they're going to do? The ones that are, I'm being aggressive at that time.
Walking down the street.
They're coming in people's dog doors and it's
If you saw them, that would.
Well, but they're the thing is, whether they're belong there or not, they're a part of our environment now, and they're going to be. You're not going to be able to kill your way out of not having coyotes.
That's why
We're not asking to kill our way out. We're asking to do what they do in the Midwest. They kill them, put them on the carcass on a fence and it's a message for the coyotes, okay? They get the message, okay, when they say that carcass hanging on a fence.
They have no predators. No
You ain't gonna absolutely nothing. Those whistles are killable. You don't do nothing. You can whistle at them, yeah, they'll walk.
Excuse
You
me.
don't run off 50 feet and then they're right there hiding in the bush and you don't know where the hell they are.
Excuse me, we'd like to have this as a controlled, discussion. So this kind of cross-talking really isn't going to be productive. So if we can actually have a regimented process where we can actually ask questions and respond to questions rather than have this, debated conversation or comments from the audience. So if you have a question, if you can actually politely ask a question, have somebody respond to that, and then we can go on to that question, because it's not going to be productive if we just have this kind of audience discussions. Can you all respect that process? Thank you. I understand that you're frustrated, but if we can have actually some questions and we can actually be able to respond to those questions, that would be the most productive way we can have this conversation.
Can we have them stand up and answer questions? Because
Yeah.
most of us back here can't hear.
Yeah, and actually what we'll do is, if you have a question, if you can raise your hand, we'll acknowledge you and we'll repeat the question for the benefit of the audience, and then we can have a response. Can we all agree that that would be the most simple way to have this conversation? Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, I'm a resident of the area, a homeowner. I also have small nephews. I have a small niece and a grandbaby on the way. And for me, we've also lost a pet to a coyote. We have multiple family and friends in the area that have also lost a pet to a coyote. We see packs of them. We've been told by animal control, they're solitary animals, they're solitary hunters. I see packs of 3 running up and down the street. That's all hours of the day. Yeah. So the other day I had my back gate open and I was just loading some stuff with a friend of mine. 3 coyotes ran 10 feet from me like I was nothing. And when I lurched them like that, they just kind of looked at me and just happened. So my question is two things, two parts. The first part is, if we had somebody that was running around the city and causing a certain amount of damage, let's say $500 worth of damage, most of our pets are worth at least $500 to us, besides the emotional value. Some pets cost even more. Wouldn't the city do something to stop that damage being caused? Secondly, don't we have an expectation of safety? If we put our nieces, our nephews, or my upcoming grandchild in my backyard with a 6-foot wall, I put bougainvillea all the way, it hangs over 2-3 feet. So coyotes can't get in. Guess what? Coyotes still got it. So now what have I done? I've had to put in a kennel, a $2,300 kennel, as an expense as a homeowner, because I don't even have the support of the city to have the expectation of safety in my own home with a 6-foot fence, locked gates, that one of my children or children's friends or nieces or nephews or granddaughter can't play on. Thirdly, and this is the last thing, what liability will the city have if there is an attack on a child? Because I can tell you, if it's me, I am not going to stop at, coyotes or coyotes.
I just don't understand how we're just going to look at the one that's being bad and the other one they're.
Sir, I'd like to hear his answer to those 3 points. I'm sorry.
So if anybody didn't hear the question, the first one was if there was somebody running around the city causing damage to the city, would the city take a proactive approach? The county, they're in this environment. They've been living here for hundreds of years. They're not going anywhere.
That's not accurate. If you're going to speak about coyotes, let's be honest. A coyote is a wild animal. It does not live within city limits. It has become safe in city limits because we've allowed it to, and we use this excuse. And if you capture coyotes, you try to relocate them, they cannot be relocated. Once they become urbanized, they come back. That's what the data shows, that's what the statistics show. And if you have an offender that's in the city, they cannot be relocated. You have to deal with them. I'm not saying go and call every coyote in the foothills. But if you have a coyote in the city limits, it should be dealt with.
We control the rat population. Why can't we control the coyote population? I know they're a dog, they're a beautiful, intelligent animal. Our mom's 32-pound dog was eaten down to its head in 20 minutes. The 3 coyotes came back every night at 3 o'clock in the morning for weeks and weeks and weeks. My brother's dog was killed in his backyard. Where we live in Laverne, within a 1-mile radius, at least 9 dogs have been killed in the last 1.5 to 2 years. I was so motivated by this, I contacted a professional trapper. And I said, can this happen? Sure, they we charge a couple $1,000 because it's never going to happen because the city council has to vote on it. And then all they got to do is show a picture of some poor coyote in a leg trap, and everybody loses the election next time. But the reality is, the guy I spoke to in Montana, he owned a traffic shop. And he said he grew up there, and he said, I never saw a coyote in my entire life as a kid. He says now they try to kill at least 200 every season because they wipe out the fawn population. So the thing is, they're an incredible, intelligent, amazing, adaptable, really incredible species. I have tremendous respect for them. Just don't eat my damn dogs and my family. Because I'm telling you, coyotes, they say, coyotes don't eat people, shake your can and go at them. Okay, that's fine. As soon as a coyote thinks it can take you, or a pack of coyotes can take you, trust me when I tell you, you are no longer the apex predator. So anybody who says that, go on to Google, YouTube it. Coyote attacks on humans, YouTube it. Start doing the research, because I have, believe me when I tell you. So I'd like to get back to my 3 original points, and let's talk about this.
Okay. And then I completely understand the coyotes are here, and I have done my research, and this is based on what the research is saying. There's the 4 or 5 people that I mentioned in the presentation are the specialists, and that's where all the documentation on coyotes is coming from. So that is what the plan is based on. They are super smart, and they're super smart animals, and they are difficult to track as
If
well.
I provide you additional information, clinical data, scientific data on this from a person that studies this, that's the perspective is, would you be willing to look at that?
I've looked at a bunch of it, yes.
Now, if I provide you that information, would you be willing to look at it?
I would look at it, and I've looked at it from, this has been brought up in a bunch of council meetings, and I have looked at those videos, and it goes down to the same scientists, the research scientists that have provided the information that I've used in this presentation.
By the way, thank you for being like this. You can tell this is a serious issue for us, and for every one of us here, there's 20 more here. But I really appreciate whatever you contentious, but it's a serious issue for the people in this area. And there may be people here who don't want anything done about it. But I just think that shaking a can at them and making sure your food's on out and yelling at them is not, it's just not sufficient.
And I want to reiterate back to the tiered response plan. If there's a coyote that's coming in your backyard, the city's saying, we'll send a specialist out there to see why that coyote's coming in. Why is there a tragedy there? Why are they coming to that house? And unfortunately, and I hate that it's all part of the food chain, and that a pet needs to be attended to during the hours when the coyote is going to be there. A pet needs to be. We have to have responsible pet owners as well.
No, don't say that, because when the coyote killed my dog, I was 20 feet away from him.
And I hope you reported that, because that's one where we had, the city would go, have a specialist go out there, figure out what the situation was, and if it's recommended to practically trap in that area because of this incident, that's a step that the city is proposing to take. So the situations, if a cow is just walking down the street,
It's near a school.
it's not
I wouldn't
attacking
care if
the.
it's not eating my dog.
Correct, and those are incidents where the city would be proactive, would bring out a specialist that would take a look at why that coyote's come to that house, why this happened, and be proactive in addressing that coyote. That's what all the specialists out there that I've said, or that I've read and researched, and I'm more than happy to take any research somebody has, because I've reviewed those videos, I've read those notes. It all goes back to the two sides that I mentioned, the hazing techniques, which I understand a lot of people have concerns because these coyotes are born and raised here, which is why we aren't using those to change the behavior, rather than, I know you say shake a can, but be intimidating, scare the coyote away, protect yourself. The other side of things is reporting and going out and getting rid of those problem coyotes, which is included in this plan. That's the other side. No specialist out there just says go out there and hunt and kill every coyote out there to. And
If they're in the city limits, but no one got them, I don't know, to go to the football.
That's a reactive plan.
It's not humane, there's no.
That's not proactive. You're only going to go after them because of problems.
No, I think I have a right. I live on the back of the canyon, Mesa Oaks area. I have 2 fences. They killed my little 17-year-old Chihuahua Terrier mix about a month ago. This is his home. The coyote belongs in the canyon. So I'm missing my dog now. This is the second time they've done, the first time they took his head. So now, who do I report this to?
that you report to the city, and we would have a specialist go out there and figure out what's the pet.
I have no food around, I have no water around, it's all inside.
Okay.
So who do I ask for at the city?
You can contact me, and I will have a LA County biologist go out there and take a look at the surroundings,
Because obviously there's something about my house.
Correct, and that's what we want to identify, so it doesn't, we can get rid of those attractants and.
I'm a farm girl from Texas. I know more about coyotes than I ever wanted to know. And I don't like them.
I don't either.
And you know what we did there recently, a few years back, is the coyotes were killing my father raised beef cattle. And they come in and they kill newborn calves. There's your product. So someone told my mother, get a Jenny, a donkey, not a male, but a female. Took her 6 months to find one, and when she did, they got rid of the coyotes because they kicked them to death. So how about if we could buy a bunch of coyotes, put them down in the canyon, I could buy a bunch of donkeys, put them in the canyon. But it worked, but they're awful animals, and they are smart.
They're very smart. I agree.
Because my dad would plow in the fields and they would run in front of him. The German Shepherd dog comes along and they do this little hump up thing like I'm hurt. The dog goes after him and they turn around and they die hide zero off.
Sir?
Yes, I'd like to, dispute or at least clarify. You made a statement that they've been here for hundreds of years. I'm not quite that old, but I moved here in '72, down on Oakway. There were dozens, well, more than that, hundreds of chickens. Okay, never saw a coyote, never heard of them. I never even heard of them. I moved up to Gritty Court in '78. I've had 9, I think, dogs and maybe 5 cats. They always ran free in the yard, never a problem, until about 2000, let's see, 10. That's when the coyote appeared on my wall. Now, he wasn't in my yard, or maybe he was, but he was on the wall between me and my neighbor. My neighbor took a picture of it, showed it to me. I called it in, I got an answer machine, left a message. I never heard squawk. Okay, so coyotes are really relatively new phenomenon here. I'd say since 2010. I would see them down at Walnut and Allen. And they were skittish. I mean, they took off like crazy. But now, they come running down my street at 10 o'clock in the morning.
All hours of the day.
Yeah.
And I apologize if coyotes have been around for 100 years. The new urbanized coyote is a new thing, and that's why we don't have a ton of studies, research done on urbanized coyote. They're in cities all over Southern California, and that is a new. They are making their homes in urban environments, and that is new, and there isn't case studies on that. So the information that we do have from both sides of the professionals out there is what I've included in this plan. If there's new stuff that comes out, this is a working plan. We can change it. We can change it based on what scientific evidence comes out. But right now, this is what the specialists, the scientists, the research is saying is the most proactive way to address them.
The only problem is right now is you're talking about the ones up in the hills. Well, they multiplied so much that now all of these coyotes that you say are not doing any wrong are now, you've got all these coyotes, they can't live up there all by themselves. It's coming down into our area. So something has to be done to curb the amount of coyotes that are being multiplied.
And we have more coyotes living here than in Lake Arrowhead. Way more. Because it's easier to eat here. What's easier to catch? Some rabbit wants to get away from you, a squirrel, or a 19-year-old poodle in someone's backyard.
And that brings it straight back to the plan. And I don't know if there's more coyotes in Arrowhead or here. I don't know where that study's at, but it is easier to eat here. So part of the plan is eliminating those attractants and the food that's left out. And I hate to say it, but the unattended pets are prey for the coyotes, and they are in the area. But this is what part of the plan is, to educate residents to get rid of low-hanging fruit, protect the plan.
The frustrating part of it, the expectation of safety pet in your backyard. If you have a fence in the yard, you should have a certain expectation of safety. We're not letting our pets run down the street with no leashes. They're in our backyards, in a fenced area. And I worry about our pets, but I worry about these kids. I'm telling you, something's going to happen.
And part of the plan is, if the coyote does come into your backyard, you're right, there is the feel of privacy in your backyard. Let the city know that there's a coyote in your backyard, and we'll send out a specialist that figures out why that coyote's coming into your backyard. There's some reason that coyote's coming there.
Your dog urinates and uses the bathroom, and so it smells that.
Yes, sir.
Brad, first of all, thank you for holding this. I have several different questions. Hopefully we can just get to a direct answer. What happens if the female alpha is killed?
I do I do not have an answer to that.
My understanding is that the rest of the pack will then mate. Right now, only the alpha male and female mate. Okay, but if the female's killed, let's say trapped, and then you kill it, you're gonna have a lot more coyotes running around having pups. Okay?
I know that study well. My
Sir, you've had enough to say. Okay, let other people talk, okay?
Thank you for that information.
Okay, and what's to stop a person from calling and saying, I got a coyote in my backyard because they saw a coyote up on the hill? I think that's why you sent somebody out to look at the difference of what the problem is, so you can actually identify that and correct it, all right? How many coyotes have attacked human beings in the county of Los Angeles?
You have that off your top of your head? You gave me that list today.
That's all right, I didn't double check it. You have a count, I gave you my list.
I got that earlier today, and I can count that off.
1981 was the last killing. It was a child, a 3-year-old.
Correct.
In the
very
city of
well.
Glendale.
Oh, so they do attack humans.
But the neighbor was feeding all the wild animals in the neighborhood. That's why.
And in that case, I believe that they were feeding the coyote.
Yeah,
that
they were
attacked
feeding,
them.
the neighbor was, and the neighbor wasn't there, and so the coyote went for the neighbor. But it was the neighbor's fault.
And I know you don't have this answer, but how many people have been bitten by dogs in LA County?
Hundreds of them, way more than a coyote has attacked.
And I think coyotes have only been 2 or 3, okay? And I'm not saying that coyotes are safe, they're not. I happen to own a $2,500 toy poodle. I take it out on a leash in the backyard. I also have a lab, which pretty much takes care of the safety problem, even with the little one. But I know I live in an area in Villa Verde that has coyotes, and you have to take certain measures to prevent that from happening, okay? And again, I think that's something you're studying, the county study, to give us a better idea of how to do that. I'm not in favor of just going out and trapping coyotes, because again, you've got a lot of issues when you do that. That's not the answer. If you have one that is aggressive, then you have to define, based on your levels, what that aggressiveness is, and then take action like you're talking about doing. So I commend you for doing that. I just hope that you can give us the results once you have those results. And it might be a good idea to have that in your newsletter, which I think you already have about the meeting and everything, and also what your findings are. I think education is extremely important.
And thank you for that. And I think part of the education campaign can be a number of incidents, what's going on in different communities, to just so people are the more information they have, the more proactive they can be in eliminating those attractants and being prepared. Yes, ma'am.
I saw one on Juanita at Merchant Park at 8 o'clock in the morning when the kids are going to school. They've got little dogs. What do you do? It's not safe. It's waiting. It's like it's on the sidewalk.
And that would be where I would, through education, I hope that it would be proactive, there'd be people there that can haze that coyote and scare the coyote
Are
off.
kids being taught in schools and stuff?
That's part of the education that we would like to get out there. Part of it is educating students, getting involved with the school district, so they are aware of coyote, what a coyote looks like, what the biology of a coyote, all that type of stuff is important for people to learn, because they're in the community, and right now, based on the scientific evidence, is education and being proactive for a kid in school to know that there is a coyote there to stay away, or for one of the supervisors to haze the coyote and get
They're
it away.
waiting for the bus. These kids are sitting there waiting for the bus to go to school.
And I'd love for that to be reported, because then we can go out there and figure out why that coyote is sitting where the bus is. The kids leaving trash right there, but they're coming by and eating it. I don't know, but those are things that we can go and be addressing.
Different types of trash cans we get to that just don't just dump in maybe, or to cover up in the park, so that the coyotes can't get the food.
Those are all great ideas, and I appreciate you bringing those up.
Just think for the kids' safety. There's lots of little kids at the park.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Just real quick to address you, someone said there were only coyotes.
They can't hear you.
There's only coyotes in groups of male and female, and maybe 3 pups. last weekend at 3 o'clock in the afternoon with my daughter in my car, I came across a group of 10 to 15. I pulled over to text my landlady to tell her to take her dogs in. I'm not from San Dimas, I live in Glendora. I'm here because of this is what happened and I wanted to see if there was something I could do. They came up to my car, 10 to 15. So it's a problem. And when they're coming to the car, I didn't have food in my car, I didn't have water in my car. My car was running. And I pulled over to text and say, pull the dogs in. Look out for the horses, I live on a horse ranch.
I believe you, and I'm going off of the research that we've done, and there could be bigger facts out there.
I'm just letting you know that.
And it is a problem, and that's why we're here talking about it.
2 and 3 pups, there's like, I counted it. And then afterwards, they came up to my car. So I just want you guys to know that there are bigger ones out there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make 3 points. Ken, I just sent you an email how they handle, National Geographic article, how they handle coyotes in the Midwest. 2, I agree that we need to take precautions and be careful how we handle our pets. I just spent $12,000 on new fencing and a kennel to protect my house against coyotes. My dog was killed earlier this year. However, the problem I have is we can't live in fear of making a mistake. I read articles on next door, people leaving their doors accidentally open, the dog gets out, and the coyote gets killed. We can't live like that, the fear of making a mistake. Sure, we can be as careful as we want. We want to make life miserable for the coyotes so they don't reduce our anxiety about making a mistake. I've got 2 other dogs that I worry about. And I worry about leaving the garage door open or the court door open. And it's the mistakes we make that causes the problems, and that's what we have. And so those are the major issues. One more thing. I've lived in San Dimas 31 years. And this is the first year I've seen so many squirrels and rabbits in my neighborhood. Has anybody else noticed that?
They run between my legs when I empty the trash.
I don't know what's going on. If the coyotes do grab the squirrels and rabbits, will be somebody running around my neighborhood. I think their tastes have changed. They're going for our pets. They're easy to kill. Okay, and so I think we ought to hire the coyotes as a city council. They're smart about this stuff. Yes.
I have a problem of understanding the part of your plan for identifying a problem of aggressive coyote. If one is in my backyard and who's going after my dog, I will call that aggressive and a problem. So then I call the city, and somebody comes out and talks to me, and I explain it's a coyote. He has no tattoos, he's not wearing a hat. The person makes the report, and then they determine, yeah, there's an aggressive problem coyote here. How are they ever going to identify the one that was in my yard? And even if they catch one, they don't know it's the one that was in my yard.
Correct. And my understanding is coyotes, they repeat. If they're getting food, going to a house, they're going to continue to go to the house if there's a trap or something that's bringing them there. To answer that, actually, Jim, can I have you come up and add? Jim actually does the trapping for the county for some different cities, and he might be the expert that can talk to you about how they focus in on a problematic coyote.
To answer your question, honestly, we don't know that we have the exact animal. We trap until the behavior stops. Usually that's one animal. Sometimes it may be 2. Generally, that's not more than we have to. But the thing is, we won't be able to, we don't do, like, for instance, if there's a human bite incident, Fish and Wildlife comes out, they'll take a swab, so we actually be able to know the DNA of the coyote that bit the individual. And there are people that are bitten every year. In 2014, there were 16 people bitten within a 6-week period in Elysian Park. State Fish and Wildlife came in, removed 17 animals from that area. One of your issues, you're talking about seeing 10 coyotes. After the fire that we had in Griffith Park a couple of years ago, a gentleman used to drive up with a Cadillac, I forgot what kind of car he has, would throw sandwiches to the coyotes. So probably what's happening in your situation, well, I'm not saying not you, but I'm saying is they've learned to associate a vehicle driving by that they're somehow being fed. That would be my guess. But as far as, to go back to your question, We don't know. We wouldn't be able to know it until we remove, and it's been our experience that once we remove 1, 2 coyotes, the behavior stops. And then that can last for up to 6 months to up to a couple of years. It depends on the area.
That's why we need
Depends on the
proactive coyote management.
Well, I have to work under the predator program that was put together by the Board of Supervisors in 1981 after, unfortunately, Kelly 15 was killed. And we have to respond after the fact to bold urban coyotes. That's the plan that we have to work under, and that's what we do. So.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question. I mean, I've grown up for the last 45 years in Laverne and San Dimas, and never in my life have I ever seen or known that there was a problem. I've had pets. You know, I was a little girl playing in the neighborhood when the street lights came on back in the old days. Never, ever was aware of this ever being an issue. So I guess my question is, because I now have a 10-month-old, 50-pound husky that I'm terrified something's going to happen to her. My husband put up 6-foot fences. We've got spikes on the fence now because I know that they can scale 6-foot walls. Never had to deal with this ever in my life. I guess my question is, why is the population exploding? Have there been studies about that? And is there something more that can be done? You're saying it's illegal to relocate them. I don't know why that's the case. I understand that once they're urbanized, it's hard to go put them up in the hills, but are there other reasons why that is not a possibility? And are there other options such as sterilization or something like that to control the population more?
Your second part of the question is relocating. That's state law that we can't relocate a coyote. So I know on the east, on the Midwest, there might be ways to deal with coyotes. We do live in California, and there's some state law that the city is under that we have to abide by. The reason for that is if they say if you remove a coyote from its pack and put it someplace else, it's going to get killed by whatever pack it doesn't belong to. So there's state law that doesn't allow us to do that. Jim, can I ask you to come up and talk about why the population, and is there sterilization programs in that?
Well, okay, so to answer your first question about why we can't relocate. So if a coyote is someplace else, or if you're going to take a coyote from your neighborhood and put it someplace else, there's already a coyote there, probably a couple. So there's that. You're also going to take a problem from your neighborhood and give it to your neighboring, Glendora, whoever else. So you're taking a problem from your area and putting it someplace else. When these guys are associated with our animals, our pets, you can get parvo, all the other diseases here. So you may be taking an animal that's diseased or has human disease, heartworm, and moving it into a population where it doesn't exist. The other thing is, like I say, if you will sustain a coyote elsewhere, there's already animals there. As one of my friends that works for Fish and Wildlife has told me, it's really politically correct euthanasia because that animal doesn't know where food, water, shelter is. So you're putting it in an alien environment where there's already coyotes that are going to defend their territory. Essentially, you're consigning it to death. So it just makes more sense. And since there's no shortage of coyotes, coyotes are a non-game mammal. They can be taken in any legal means possible. There's really no reason to relocate a problem animal. Okay. What was the other? Oh, sterilization.
And do we know why the population is exploding?
To be honest with you, no one knows. There just isn't enough information. Now, I deal with all 4,000 square miles of Los Angeles County, and I can tell you they're dealing with the same problem in Compton, which is miles away from any kind of foothills or urban interface where you would normally have coyotes. They're everywhere. And
they're all the way in Manhattan. They're in northern Canada.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were typically in the Southwest historically.
Exactly.
They are such an intelligent, adaptable species. They have done better where humans have gone. It's not true we're pushing them out of the mountains.
No.
They do really well where we are.
Exactly, and that's the thing. You may have certain situations when the fires come through here, you might have some movement from here, but they're not coming into the areas for water or food. They're already here. There's already a population here, and in fact, they're even now found in Manhattan. They have in Central Park where they've never been known, there's no, unless they're on the Brooklyn Bridge hitchhiking, how'd they get there?
They see them, I just remember they saw some, just a couple weeks ago, running across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah. But the other thing as far as sterilization. So the thing is, in order to make sterilization work, you have to sterilize about 86% of the population. There's no way you ever, the same thing with, unfortunately, with feral cats. You can't keep it, and the other issue with sterilization, that doesn't prevent them from eating your pets. So they're still going to be out there, unfortunately, killing pets and causing issues that way. But it's just not practical to go out there. They haven't developed any kind of chemosterilant. So again, how many things do you want to put in our environment that other things can get into? And you never know what that ripple effect might be. So
I get that. I just feel like the education needs to go beyond just the hazing. I can't teach my puppy to blow a whistle.
Absolutely.
And, she's got access to the house in this side yard that is completely clean. There's no food or water. It's in the house. There's nothing out there. And I'm still scared to death because she can't protect herself. And if it jumps the wall, she's going to think it's her buddy.
Yeah, no, I
And
understood.
so maybe there needs to be a broader education effort with other, I don't know, preventative measures or something.
Absolutely.
I'd like to ask, this is great to have somebody who's actually a professional trapper. I mean, you're a professional trapper, sir? I've heard, like, from the botanical gardens in the areas, the Arboretum, Descanso Gardens, places like that, have kind of they have kind of a trapping program for coyotes. They've had it for a long time. They just don't talk about it. Because it wipes out the geese, wipes out the peacocks, everything. We just don't hear about it. But do you really believe that the long-term solution is us just to deter them? That culling a certain population won't make this better? Because why do we call rats?
Well, because rats are a public health issue because they have plague.
Okay.
So I mean, there are other reasons why we do certain things. So what I'm looking at is the sustainable thing, because again, we don't want to kill every single animal just because it's out there. And you get that, and we get that. The thing is, what we're trying to do is trying to keep our coyotes polite where we can. Because this is a learned response that they're teaching their pups from over and over and over again. Yes, we do suppression. The County of Los Angeles, what we do, in 1981, there was a predatory animal program put together after, unfortunately, Kelly Keene was killed. And in that instance, she was correct. Someone was feeding, they stopped feeding. The little girl, unfortunately, ran from the coyote. It was a neighbor. And, any dog, predator-prey response, unfortunately, caught her behind the neck and killed her. Within 3 months, within an eighth of a square mile, 55 coyotes were removed by the state and us and feds. That's a huge amount. People were feeding these things way.
That's ridiculous behavior.
Exactly. So the thing is that what we want to try to do is have, if they're going to be here, and even if you kill them in your area, even like what Torrance is going to do starting this month, there's still going to be coyotes from the Palos Verdes Peninsula. There's always going to be movers moving in. So where do you stop the killing? Well, the idea is that if they're not interacting with your pets in a negative manner, if they're not interacting with humans, not biting folks, then they're doing what they're supposed to do in the environment. I mean, we still have hawks and other, raccoons and possums and things out there that are a part of our environment that and there may be reasons to get rid of them. We do have nuisance wildlife issues that cause things, but we don't even take the ones that create problems for us.
Well, on this gentleman's point back here, I want to say, yes, you're statistically far more likely to be mauled by a dog, killed by a dog, a feral dog. I get that. You're absolutely correct about that. I don't think you can dispute that. I don't think any of us walking down the street are very likely to be attacked and killed by a coyote as we leave here for the next 5-10 years. The fact is, though, they are the only thing going in our backyards and eating our dogs and our cats. I know my neighborhood has no cats running around anymore. And I think it is a reasonable expectation that my pet, my dog, should be safe in my backyard from 3 apex predators jumping the wall and eating them. I just think it's a reasonable expectation.
Well, and this is your city, and this is your taxpayers' dollars, and you can decide that. I mean, I'm going from science, I'm going from the biology of where it is. Some of what you're talking about here is, and don't get me wrong, I have rabbits, I've had dogs, my son just lost his outdoor cat to a coyote, knowing that they're in the neighborhood. So I get that, and I understand that. But, so I have to come from the perspective of science and from what the board has directed us to do. This is your community, this is your tax dollars, how you want to do it. Torrance is doing a proactive, that's what they wanted to do, that's what they wanted to spend the money to do. That's up to them.
You mean they're trapping and...
They're tracking, they basically open season from October through December to have a proactive trapping program. That's something that they chose they want to do.
I'll bet you we will do that eventually here.
But that's yours.
Worse and worse.
That's your decision as a community. But like I say, from a biologic standpoint, it's not always sustainable, but that's up to you.
Yes, real quick.
Two questions, one regarding the city's participation in the plan. So is there any component of it where the city employees are going to be doing any of the reporting back, or are you leaving it solely on the citizens?
To report the coyote sightings?
Activity,
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it too. I mean, we're just as responsible as all the residents. So if we see one,
Police
it can
department,
be.
fire department, you, everybody that sees a coyote in the city limits is gonna...
And again, if the coyote's doing a normal coyote behavior, walking down the street, not doing anything, that's normal.
That's not
coyote.
normal. I think that the false premise here is that everything that's happening is normal unless you see it happen for yourself. And I think that's what everybody's frustrated about, is that it's too late. Once they've attacked your pet, and the comment about the cats disappearing, it's the behavior of humans has changed, because now they don't want a pet that they bond themselves to called a cat, because they know that the cats can't be controlled all the time. They're gone because coyotes are around. Small dogs are also vulnerable to the activity of a coyote when it does what's normal, which is feed. So this premise that they're just normal and walking around the neighborhood is not entirely accurate in that statement. But I think where I'd like to go with this is that the plan that you put up does not provide any, I guess, seriousness to what's going to be done proactively to address the issue by the city. And then also, what options do the citizens have to bring up this consideration for paying tax dollars to have the coyotes eradicated, as opposed to a passive, reactive plan, a more aggressive, proactive plan? I mean, is that something we can vote on? Can we get it on the ballot? Can we go to the state of California and get on the ballot as to change that law from 1981 or whatever it is that was referenced? I think that's something that the citizens deserve the option to look into for themselves as well, other than the research that you put into it, which I'm sure is fair, but.
And that's just based on the research that, like you said, I found that's out there is this is the best approach to deal with the coyote. I understand the other
So
side.
the citizens don't have to vote. It's your vote and that's it?
It's not my vote.
No, you said you did the research.
So let me talk about this a little bit. Okay. The city council heard this plan.
Tell them who you are.
Oh, my name's Ryan, I'm the mayor pro tem right now. So, city council heard this plan from the staff. This issue's been going on for some time, and I know a lot of people here that have had their pets taken. And so it really prompted the discussion on what we're going to do about it. The staff went through, did some extensive research, the city manager, the assistant city manager, to get us to the point where we had a plan in front of us maybe 2 months ago or so. That plan at that moment was a collaborative plan with the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments that really focused on doing reporting and tracking, but to some of the points that have been made earlier tonight, what's a coyote look like? Brown. I mean, there is no identification other than the effort that the county is actually beginning to engage in, which I think is going to be meaningful. But it didn't feel like enough, because hazing, as some people have pointed out, and I work different hours in my job, come home and I see the coyotes running around, and they are different. They're not intimidated. They're not responding in some instances. So ultimately, there was a plan and there was a meeting, which I encourage all of you to watch, the city council meeting, and I'm sure the city manager or assistant can get you the date that meeting went down, and you can watch it on the website and see what the discussion was there. But that being said, that's what prompted this meeting, is for you to be able to come out, for the staff to be able to hear your concerns, and then to be able to incorporate them into the plan. You've seen the plan, it hasn't come back to the council yet, and you have some members of council that are here listening tonight to your comments, and this matter will come back in the near future. So please do, give them the information and understand. I have my own questions that I'm going to ask, but not tonight. I will ask them because of a legal requirement. There's 3 council members here in attendance, so I can't really engage further.
Answer my question, and that is with the city's liability if a child or someone was attacked. Have you looked at that or studied that for potential cause notification?
Yeah, that's a question that's better answered by the city attorney and not me. So, but we can ask that. So I just want you to know it is a matter that's taken seriously. I'm very happy that staff put this forum together with the many people that they brought to the table, both from the Valley Humane Society, who is here, the county agriculture, as well as the sheriff's department, because the response from the community has been very diverse, and a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on how to solve this problem. So I hope this is meaningful for you as the community, and to answer your question in short, come to the city council meeting, because that's where your vote,
And I don't think
your voice needs to be.
I don't think anybody is trying to be rude or obnoxious and, kind of overbearing in their comments. But I think things like code enforcement were in there. Like, they have dens. And we live next to Benelli. We live adjacent to the mountains. We live in a neighborhood where people have yards that are, not just like, 5-foot postage stamp yards. What is being done to make sure that the places where they might sleep, are being eradicated or are called out? I didn't see anything in there about that. But if they're in our neighborhoods, that means they're sleeping somewhere. They don't just like appear out of thin air. They're not always walking from the mountains. They're obviously in Benelli. We've all seen them that goes to Benelli. So where is that in the plan to go look them out? Search them out.
And part of that is the response that would, if code enforcement's out there, they find a den, they would report that. We would have a biologist go out there and assess the den. If it's something that's going to endanger human life or would be aggressive, then we can go address that den. So that's the response in the tier response plan and the reporting part of the plan. Yeah. Yes.
Benelli Park's in the county. You have no regulation over Benelli Park?
We don't, but Jim would oversee Benelli Park. The county would.
Okay. So you'll work with Jim on Benelli Park, because I think a lot of them are coming from Benelli Park?
If they're in the city, you would address the Benelli Park county property.
Yeah, as part of the county family, if they ask us and there's an issue with that, then we have intervened for like flood maintenance and other county. We had an issue over at the Compton Airport. Our public works department oversees all those county airports. They had a coyote that was walking across the tarmac. Well, that's an FAA violation because you don't want the coyote to get hit by a plane. So we removed that coyote. So issues, if county departments like Parks and Recreation has an issue, we work with them to resolve that issue.
Two more questions, and then we'll wrap. Yes.
I just wanted to say the meeting that he's talking about, I believe it was August 27th, for anybody that wants to watch that video.
Thank you. The meeting that the Mayor Pro Tem was talking about is August 27th. The last time we talked about that. So it's online. You go to the city website. Yes, one last question.
I'd like to thank staff for having this meeting and for making some adjustments to the previous plan that was presented. I think this is much better. My only suggestion would be to look at moving the trapping aspect up one more level. You're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. move it up closer to the start of the process levels than at the rear of the levels.
I really appreciate that. And I just want to reiterate that thank you everybody for coming. I hear everybody loud and clear, and I know there's two different sides, opinions when dealing with this, and that's one thing staff's trying to do is look at both sides, look at what the research is, and present something that we can move forward with. But again, thank you everybody for coming out, and appreciate it. We plan on bringing this to the council on the next Tuesday.
Before you leave, I'm just going to provide a few closing comments. Again, we appreciate everyone who came out tonight and your comments. We understand that this is a very serious and passionate issue for a lot of you. And believe me, we are trying to take a proactive approach. We did not have a plan up to this point. And we were part of a consortium of about 18 cities in the San Gabriel Valley that started this back in February or so. We were all having the same problem, hearing the same concerns in our communities. So we all thought, let's put our minds together and let's try and come up with something, because a lot of cities did not have any type of proactive program. As Brad mentioned earlier, this is a living document. This is a first step. If we can actually adopt a plan, it may not be what everyone wants, and it may not be the end all to be all, but at least it's a start. And then we can actually start to implement, and we all agree that education is a really key component. And so if we can actually get this ball rolling, and then we can kind of test the things and see how successful it is. A lot of you talked about, where are the dens? Where are they packing? If we can get people and our staff and the community to start to give us that information, we can start to track that information and find out where's the concentration of, the problem areas. And, our program as far as eradication is pretty aggressive compared to some other communities. It may not be a proactive approach where we're going to go out and cull the coyote population, but, we've got a pretty good program with this phasing that if there are some situations where there is an aggressive coyote, then we can actually evaluate with the county, with the help of the county, to evaluate, okay, is this an aggressive coyote that we actually need to eradicate and start that process. So I guess my message would be, you guys gave us some really good information, but I hope that you would allow us, as far as the city, to let's get this ball rolling. At least let's put something out there, start a process. We can amend it if we feel we need to be more aggressive in the future. But I think we're on the right track to try and evaluate and deal with this problem. And as many of you said, and you heard from the county representatives, this isn't a San Dimas problem. It's not an LA County problem. It's not a California problem. It's a national problem that coyotes, for whatever reason, the population has just exploded over the last couple of years, and we're all trying to deal with it the best that we can, using the tools that we have available to us. So I hope that you'll appreciate that fact and be supportive whatever direction we go. It may not be as far as you want us to go, but hopefully it's you appreciate the fact that we are taking some steps. And I do want to actually recognize and acknowledge Brad he's probably learned more about coyotes in the last 2 or 3 months than he ever wants to know. I really appreciate his efforts. And again, you've got our contact information. We plan on bringing this to the city council next Tuesday, at least to give them an update. Hopefully we'll adopt a plan. If not, we may have some questions that we need to bring back to them. But if you're interested in this topic, come to the council meeting next Tuesday. We'll be here to answer any questions after the meeting. And again, I appreciate your time on a Tuesday night. And hopefully we can all move this process forward collectively. So thank you very much.